up your meeting for Facebook Live, Monday, June 29th, 2020. We are live on Facebook, ladies and gentlemen. It's the most exciting thing you can find on Facebook on Monday nights at 7 o'clock. It is me, Tommy McKay, your fantastic host with David Van and David Oldham, the most intelligent and educated Davids in the state. We know everything about the state and state politicians from David Van. Soonerpolitics.org is where you can find him. And of course, every constitutional question you ever have can be answered by David Oldham from constitutionalgrounds.com. I am your intriguing and personable host, Tommy McKay. Catch me, McKay, at 3dpoliticslive.com, at Tommy McKay on Facebook and Twitter. And the big news is Parler. Everybody is rushing to Parler, and of course, you can catch me at Tom E. McKay on Parler. Wow, guys, how soon are you going to be till you guys get to Parler?
I'm on there.
Oh, there you go. See how it doesn't take long, does it?
Later tonight for me.
There you go.
I'm still waiting for some of the features to get better. There's a few things
it's a little bit odd. I don't know how to act because it's like everybody's polite. I don't know how to do it. Twitter, I know. You're like, that's
my
easy.
only concern is I don't want it to be an echo chamber where everybody who agrees with Trump is in Parler. If you don't, you're in Twitter. Then we just don't get that discourse.
And that's important because we have got to be reaching the people who don't yet agree with us. And so you have to end in their playground.
The share button in Parler allows you to, this is one of my favorite things about being both on Twitter and Parler, is that I can take the idiots that tweet and laugh at them on Parler by sharing it. And then I take the people on Parler that are brilliant and share it to the morons on Twitter, and I mix them up. Just like that.
Okay, so if you're not on Parler, Tom is probably joking about you behind your back.
If you tweet,
just get on Parler, and then you'll be face to face.
That's right.
If you tweet about control and pretend it's science, I am making fun of you. Hey, listen, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Big news, of course, the police shooting in Tulsa. Horrible stuff. We're going to talk about that later because it's the most important thing. We've got the primary election. It's tomorrow, and we're going to spend a lot of time on that tonight because it's critically important what happens tomorrow at the ballot box. The BOK management is another topic, and how it is we spent our bipartisan dollars on the BOK, and then we get a partisan management team to ruin everything for us at the gates. Another story, the Freedom Index 2020, the champions and the betrayers. And that's some good stuff. And you numbers people need to stick around because Van's got all the numbers for you. And what did I leave out? There's a hire. We're going to start tonight with the new hire. I'm going to go. Can I go with that, guys?
Sure.
Yeah.
Here we go with the new hire. And it is Bynum has hired. Let me make sure I got the right. Bynum has hired the. That's not it. Well, I've lost my share screen, but he has hired a gal named Monica Hamilton. GT Bynum reads it. It says he's excited. This is June 25th of just last week. Excited to announce the newest member of our senior leadership team at the city of Tulsa. Monica Hamilton is taking over as customer care director. Monica is returning to Tulsa after several years in city leadership in Texas, most recently as the executive general manager for the city of Fort Worth. We want Tulsa to receive the best customer service of any city in the country, so he's grateful to have a leader like Monica Hamilton leading them. Now, she's coming to us on June 25th. And I found this thing it's the FWculture.com news from April 2019. So this is April 10th, 2019, not even a year ago. Right. It says assistant city manager announced this is out of Fort Worth a year ago, April. announced 2 promotions that will result in a more coordinated structure between the mayor council office and the city manager's office. Fort Worth, Monica Hamilton, a year ago, was promoted to the new position, executive general manager for the city Fort Worth manager's office. She served as deputy chief staff for the mayor council office for the past 4 years, and her breadth of knowledge, and that's breath, they spell it, the breadth of knowledge that she has of the city of Fort Worth, along with her previous municipal experience, which is all from Tulsa, is ideal for this role. Her new responsibilities include the administrative management of the offices, budget preparation and management, staff assistant, special projects, and the coordination. So what I'm saying here, the thing is, like, if somebody's selling a boat, you always wonder, why are you selling the boat? My question is, why did you leave within 1 year of getting promoted? That would be my question.
Yeah. Tom, I want to say something. I've followed some Texas politicos here in the last year. They said the Texas large cities are very liberal, but the state overall still remains conservative. But the cities are growing mostly because Californians want to get the heck out of California, but they aren't smart enough to realize it was their political philosophies that caused California.
Right.
You know?
We hate our cage now.
I mean, Austin is nuts. They literally, the mayor said this weekend that they're not going to get rid of mandatory masks wearing until a vaccine is proven effective.
Right.
Think about it. That could be 10 years from now.
The thing that I question before we move out of the city politics and we try to beg Oldham back into the discussion, the Constitution is so far away from G.T. Bynum, Oldham just has to leave the room. Yeah. But anyway, here is this March 30th of this year, 2020. Monica Hamilton is leaving her job in Fort Worth. She says, this 5 years in Fort Worth wraps up my 15-year career in public service. So that means she was 10 years in Tulsa, 5 years in Fort Worth, and now she's back here in Tulsa. And I don't know why she's leaving after one year. She's originally, it says from her Facebook, originally from Maywood, Illinois. She hasn't changed her city from Arlington yet. She went to Proviso East High School. I'm not sure where that is. She studied family studies and gerontology. Anybody, you guys smart enough to know what that is? For 200 points, buzzer.
The study
it has to do with aging.
That's correct. No buzzer, no points. But yeah, you're right. That is correct. She studies the particular problems of old people. Yeah. I could give her a few things. She's from Southern Nazarene University, University. And so former executive general manager at the Fort Worth City Hall of Fort Worth. So, I mean, she was only, anyway, that's my question about why would you leave? Yeah, in 1 year.
We know maybe 10% of the real story here.
Yeah.
This is just the way it is. There's the reason they give, and then there's the real reason, and there's probably some salacious stuff underneath it.
I don't know. I don't know that. In fact, all of her reviews are gleaming. She's, everything you can. She's just doing a great job. The thing that I am conflicted about is that they continue to in Tulsa want to look outside of Tulsa to make us better. Why can't we be more like? And so when GT wants to take us progressively into the future, why is he making Tulsa the same again? He's going back to Dewey Bartlett Jr., Kathy Taylor, and the rest. It's the same crew. And he's not bringing anything forward. He's going backward in time. He's regressive, not progressive. And I don't like either of them. Oldham, thanks for coming back. I'm done with the local story.
Yeah. I didn't leave because of that.
Yeah.
Anything else? I'm okay, though.
Tom, can I give you a broad principle on this?
Yeah, anything that we're out of it.
Progressives are always saying, get somebody from the more liberal part of the United States and hire them so they can come in and bring all the liberal people that they had connection with, such as our superintendent. Even though she grew up here, she's an East Coast liberal. And who'd she hire? Her top 2 hires was an administrator from Detroit and another one from Baltimore. And you wonder why we have transgender bathrooms at every school. That didn't come from Tulsans.
And just in passing, the most recent Supreme Court case, what was it about the transgender? Somebody passed a thing. Now transgenders are a protected group, right? Constitutionally, which makes it a constitutional.
No, not constitutionally.
When did they pass it? What was it?
The court is protecting them extra constitutionally.
Okay, the court has protected it, and it is extra constitutional because then that group is, you can literally by surgery afford yourself into the protected group. I mean, it's literally ridiculous.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so, in other words, some people have protection of their rights to choose, and actually protection to force others to accept them, you know, in their games of pretending to be something that they're not.
Right.
And versus the rest of us not being able to do that. We're going to talk about that when we talk about masks and vaccines and stuff like that, because that's the same thing going on there.
Okay.
Anything else on this one, boys, before I close the table?
No.
All right, that's it for the GT Bynum Hires Some Gal from Fort Worth episode. You are 3D Politics Live right here on Facebook every Monday at 7 p.m. I'm Tommy McKay, your fine host. I've got David Van and David Oldham as usual. And now we're going to move on to the primary election that's coming up tomorrow. This is the big important news. Don't forget, later in the show, we're going to be talking about the hottest news that's the most dangerous thing happening, the police shooting in Tulsa. But before that, primary election. And first, the Oklahoma impact on the percent of the general election. Van, what do you got?
Yeah, and I just want to say, because we've got 4 things we're going to talk about in this election. We're going to get into 802. Oldham's got a lot to say on that. And then we didn't even know it, but last April we elected 46 members, and tomorrow we're going to elect another 24. But what I want to say is, after tomorrow, the House is no longer in play. The Senate certainly is no longer in play. We're not voting for the statewide offices. Nobody expects Inhofe to have any problem getting reelected. We got congressional races that are just facing primaries, and that's all. So what's happening is, for statewide politics, tomorrow's more important than November general election.
Correct.
And especially when we talk about 802, which is a major constitutional change, throwing a huge anchor onto our Constitution. And so I basically want to say, my point is, tomorrow's the big election.
Okay, you just brought, now, unless you have more than that on the impact, you did say numbers, which always confuses me. 802. What is State Question 802?
I'll let David go with that.
Thank you.
Well, State Question 802 is an expansion of Medicaid. And what they are going to do is they're going to expand Medicaid. They're going to use federal dollars to help see the extra expense through. But those federal dollars only last 3 years, and then they go away, and all of the burden is put on Oklahomans. Now, mind you, it's already on Oklahomans, but it's on the rest of the country as well for the first 3 years. Because they're taxing us at the federal rate to expand this Medicaid.
Well, they encourage overspending in the first 3 years, and then later, but wait, whatever.
Well, exactly. That's exactly what's going on. But here's the problem: is this expansion is going to be a constitutional amendment to our Constitution. Now, I say it's pretty much neither here nor there. I mean, David's called it I don't remember the word you used, but a major change to our Constitution. Actually, it's unconstitutional to be in our Constitution, because remember that Medicaid is a program of socialism, a social welfare program. And any money that is taken from you to pay for others is not only socialism, but is expressly prohibited by the Fifth Amendment, where it says that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So therefore, John Roberts, to the contrary, and irrespective of him, they cannot tax you for ACA Obamacare. They cannot tax you for Social Security. They cannot tax you for public schools, for Medicaid, Medicare. None of that is actually lawful. And so I want to make sure that we're realizing that if we are serious about helping the president, about actually doing what we claim and wanting to end socialism and make sure socialism doesn't happen, that we start calling things what they are. Medicaid, Sooner Care is socialism.
Oh, yeah.
When you vote tomorrow, if you vote yes on 802, you are voting to expand the existing socialist program we have and up the ante. That's what your vote is doing. Now, I say that we don't have to, that it doesn't doesn't really matter, because it should be just thrown out if anybody had a problem. We should never have to pay the tax, because, and nobody has the right to expect to receive Sooner Care whatsoever, because the program is illegal, so you can't expect, ill-gotten gains.
I think it is a big deal when anytime they make a constitutional change. And so, Van, what is your concern about the magnitude of making a change, regardless of what the topic is and what Oldham's idea of how it will or won't? I mean, when you go in for surgery, it's a big deal.
Yeah, but you're getting lousy care, number one. You're not the customer anymore. It is a theft. I mean, just to springboard what Oldham said, I posted up on social media here, said, in the old days, the thieves used force or cloak. Today, they use extortions, politicians, agencies, and juries to steal your goods, and then they call it an entitlement. So, yeah, there's no free lunch. We know someone's going to pay it, and we've got this mindset, including our own legislators, including some so-called Republicans, who think this is free money. And we have Republicans in Congress who blew it the 2 years that they had majority. They had the clean sweep, and they couldn't get anything done to clean up this mess. And so as a result, right now, the numbers-wise, you can get a what do we call it? A Cadillac Escalade for a cheaper out-of-pocket price than a Dodge Caravan. That's how it looks to a legislator, because instead of getting 60% reimbursement by the federal government now, it'll go up to 90%. So that's that pragmatic, just how do I make as many people happy as possible type politician. So yeah. It is a problem, and it's a problem that I think we're not going to get rid of without some kind of draconian circumstances, because the DC politicians just can't help themselves.
Just the liberal politicians are the same as their liberal base. They have no idea where a wage is derived from, in the same way they don't know where a gallon of milk comes from. It's a cow. Okay, a wage isn't just some arbitrary figure. And so eventually these politicians are like, okay, well, a fair wage would be, well, fair that's not how you calculate a wage.
Yeah. And then I got just a couple of points I'm going to make. People think, they're going to have health insurance, as they understand it now, that's going to be free from the government. Well, first of all, we've had Insure Oklahoma for 15 years now, which works on a sliding scale where you have at least a token premium. It's not much, but that actually is better for both the patient and for the state budget than this. And I'm just speaking comparatively, Oldham. I'm not trying to endorse anything, But for instance, I know somebody who's on some mental health medication and needs a few medicines each month as a maintenance med, but then gets a bug bite, they need an anti-inflammatory, plus they need an antibiotic, and that now they're at their 6 prescriptions a month, which is all Sooner Care will pay. But the problem was they had a horrible reaction to the antibiotic. And my God, they had to stop it immediately. And so now gangrene's going to set in, because Sooner Care won't make an exception to give you a 7th medication. That's the kind of asinine stuff. Or you're 18 years old and you have an honest to goodness Ritalin need because you're really serious ADD. You understand, Tom, right? So
I wasn't paying attention.
okay. And all of a sudden you become an adult and your sooner care benefit for this ADD med is cut off. And why? Because they're more concerned about their war on drugs than actually keeping well people well, or maintaining their productivity.
The super critics will say, we don't really need insurance, and then at the same time, then they'll clamor for the politicians should come up with an answer. No, whatever the problem is, the private sector should be coming up with these answers, not relying on government. And to me, insurance is a philosophical word game anyway. You pay me every month, or I'll penalize you if it's late. And then when you have a problem, if I can get out of it, I will. And if I can't, I'll pay. It's ridiculous.
43 years ago, I remember as a high school kid, I had to run to the doctor for something. I didn't even get a chance to talk to mom and dad. I went in and I just paid it. A doctor visit was $3. There was no insurance. It was just $3 to see the doctor. And it wasn't a bad doctor. I mean, it was not third world. I'm saying the insurance has made the problem worse because you don't pay for all the staff in some high-rise skyscraper called Blue Cross Blue Shield and make the cost of healthcare cheaper.
Yeah, that's $3. That's $3
with the state healthcare authority. They just add to the price.
And now throw government in on top of that. Everybody's getting their cut.
Yes.
At least with the private sector, they only take a meager profit. Sure. But the government spends your dollar at like 33 cents on the buck, and then there's profit cut out of that. It's just sick what's going on.
And it is, Oldham's correct in that it's socialism, but it's a form of socialism that we call fascism, in that the government picks the winners and losers, and they highly regulate them, sometimes not enough, if you ask me, but it's much like your utility company. That's fascism.
Remember, it was fascistica American communarium. Remember that routine?
Yeah.
It's a nasty hybrid of communism and fascism. It's not even the same beast anymore.
And really, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, is fascism.
Yes, it's forced participation is the worst thing.
And who's the benefit of it? The big corporations that made the special deals, like Blue Cross Blue Shield, for instance. Happens to be one of them.
Right. And Blake Barber, I didn't quote you exactly. So, type anything you want. I'll use anything you say to make my show better. Yeah. Blake Barber, one of our great critics and dissidents. And if he would ask a good question, I'd just ask it for him on the show. But so far, it's just he keeps trying to put on his own show, which I would encourage him to go put on his own show, and I'd see what it's like.
And I'll demand that they make me a guest on that.
And everybody has to wear a mask. Wear a mask, ? Don't even ask. What I say is don't defile the smile. What is the universal language all over the world is the smile. And what is the government trying to do right now? Squelch the universal language of love. Yeah. You can't legislate love, children. You can't legislate love.
Yep.
Don't defile the smile. I'm in the bold-faced pride club, and I want to have a parade too. Yeah. What else, David? Well, okay, I'm off the rails.
Yeah.
SQ802 is what we're talking about, and we're over it.
Oldham, you got any more takes on the 802 thing other than get out and vote?
Well, get out and vote no. That's the big thing is let's realize whatever your takeaway is from this, and I think we've pretty well covered it. It's going to come back and bite us. We shouldn't even be voting on it, quite frankly, because it's an unconstitutional act to put our rights to a vote.
Van, can we gang up on him?
What's that?
I just want to.
Can we gang up on you? Is what I ask.
I do want to say this. if your household income is at the poverty level or higher, Obamacare is going to give you like 99% cost sharing. You'll get insurance for a token $2 a month. Okay. And that's Blue Cross or some of those others. If you're below that, then Oklahoma has what's called Insure Oklahoma. That's partially funded by the tobacco settlement, partly out of state appropriations, and partly out of Medicaid, currently, without expanding it. Anybody below the poverty rate can get that, and you actually are a paying insurance, policy holder. Now, it's somewhat managed by the same people that run Sooner Care, but it's a separate entity, and it actually steers you towards getting out of government assistance as, you can gradually work your way there. So we already have those policies in place. We already have those things. We just don't have it in our Constitution as a mandate. And so I want to avoid.
It can't stand even in our state constitution, because our state constitution is subordinate to the U.S. Constitution, and therefore your Fifth Amendment rights are superior to the state constitution. They cannot vote away your house, your car, your stuff. The people of the state, by a simple majority, cannot vote that stuff away. It's time we started waking up to this fact.
We're going to move on to polling places, but before we do, anything else on State Question 802, which everybody has got 3 X's on? It's not moving on at Hollywood. It's unconstitutional at its face. And I agree with Oldham, where I feel like Van and I at some point need to gang up on Oldham, and not right now. But Oldham properly points out many times what's happening is unconstitutional. What happens right now shouldn't be happening. Somebody stole my car, and that's wrong. Yeah, it's wrong, and blah, 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 and it's wrong, and it shouldn't, and it's unconstitutional. And so what, man? Because every time you say that, how do you start from where we're at, not where we're not at? Well, don't start, Oldham. Don't even go there. We're going to do it later and gang up on you. Right now, we're talking about the weird polling places, and what is it that's so weird about them? Van.
Yeah, and I was listening to Gwen Freeman this morning, talking to Pat Campbell on KFAQ about it. Now, this is Tulsa, but the same thing is happening around the state. A bunch of the polling places contacted their county election board, said, geez, with this COVID scare, we're really nervous and we're afraid we'll get sued and yada, yada, yada. And so we're no longer a polling place. Goodbye. Take your stuff, go. And then you had a whole bunch of poll workers that were 70, 80 years old, because it's kind of made ideal for your retiree type person.
Right.
And a bunch of those, man, I don't feel like having a bunch of people cough in my face all day for, 12 hours? My God, that's rough. And so you got all these issues. That leaves us with what we've got. We're going to have a whole bunch of people that'll go to their polling place tomorrow and find out, guess what? It's closed. And hopefully in those cases, there'll be a sign on the door saying where you can go to vote.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's like, okay, so with the COVID scare, we don't want to concentrate people. We want to social distance. So the answer to that is close some polling booths and make sure everybody's got to meet at the election campaign, so that in 3 months we'll say, well, elections are too dangerous to have. You can't have an election. My God, what would happen? We would die if we had an election.
You've got all kinds of problems like that where they make the actual problem worse, claiming they're making it better.
I don't know why she swallowed a fly, David.
Okay, rabbit trail. I had to go to the doctor to schedule for a procedure coming up. I go in there on the 10th floor. Guess what? There's 3 elevators. Guess how many are working? 1. I rode up with 8 people in one little box, and on the way down, it was full to begin with, and we stopped at 5 floors, and there were no less than 15 people trying to get on with us.
And they're purposely trying to spread this stuff. It's literally trying to spread it.
In a healthcare facility. It was the Warren Professional Building. Yeah, that's how insane it is. So let's get back to the polling
places.
And what we've got now is they're going to start limiting how many people can come in the door. They'll literally have somebody at the door won't let the next one in until they have a spot, because everybody's got to be 6 feet apart. The cool thing is, if you vote, at least in Tulsa County, you get a free pin. That means, Oldham, in the past you were stealing. This time it won't be considered theft.
So they took all the fun out of it?
So they're giving away pens.
Yeah, they don't want to clean the pen after you handle it with your, grimy hands.
Right.
Yeah.
You plebes, when you plebes come in, the bourgeois can't touch the pen after that.
So you get, not only do you get an I voted sticker that you can shame GT Bynum with, or whoever you want to shame with, but you get a free pen and a shaming sticker.
You get a pen that's probably coated with who knows what.
No, it was a clean pen they took out of a package just for you when you came in.
Sure, government clean,
The thing is, where did it come? How did it get put into the package? I saw a video last night that came from February of an Indian group that was making masks, and they were doing it on the dirty floor. They were all doing it by hand, and they're all barefoot and everything, but they're making masks.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, and that's going to go straight to your face with whatever it was sitting in. It was sitting in a dusty floor and stuff like that they were all walking on. Sure. And there was just a pile of them just kind of, and just splaying out all over the place. Yep. So it's like, you think it's all sanitized.
Oh, well, let's clarify something, because we know a few things medically. The virus that's associated here, the COVID-19, might live on a surface like that for up to 48 hours, right? So you'd be correct in saying, you could even get lockjaw, tetanus or whatever, or something from that, or bacterial thing. But the virus,
borderline personality disorder,
if it sits on a shelf for a week, the virus dies in it.
Well,
unless
it
unless
doesn't
it's
matter
raw
if
meat.
It doesn't matter if you get infected with something else.
I know.
Yeah. Bacteria or something.
We're halfway through our first topic about the primary election, and I'm going to reset because we are talking about COVID-19 right now, but how it ties into the polling places for tomorrow. Once again, it's 7 p.m. or later on Monday night on Facebook Live with Tommy McKay, your fantastic host, always begging questions out of the people who are watching. And if they can make it a good enough question, then and fits the topic, I might add it to the show tonight. Got to train the callers just like you train the. So Alderman Van,
the voting.
Here we are back to the topic with 3D Politics with David Van and David Oldham, and Oldham's going on about the polling places getting weird. Hit it.
And this is that we have a specific place in our state constitution that talks about anybody who would interrupt or impede the right to suffrage, the right to vote. So if they screw this up and then some people don't make it into the polls because of whatever, then they are directly violating the Oklahoma Constitution. And so they had better get it right and not be, trying to slow everything down to the point that people can't get through the doors.
Yeah.
So I just want to point that out.
And clarifying that our policy has always been, if you are in line at 7 p.m., it doesn't matter how long it takes that line to get to you to vote. You are in line.
That's valuable right there. That's valuable information, because a lot of people, they're like, I ain't gonna wait.
Yeah.
They may cut it off. So it's important to note that. That's good to know.
But of all the state questions that I can remember in the last, I'd say 20 years, this is going to be the most impacting.
And isn't it
horrible?
Isn't it because it's touching the constitutional framework instead of just being another passing bill? Isn't that part of it?
Statute,
Yeah, because I know, but right now it's popular to move bigger blocks than just letting it be seasonable according to today's community. In 20 years, what they're changing in the Constitution now is not necessarily going to be equitable.
Sure. Yep.
Sure. Well, I think that what's going to be most impactful is it's going to be such a violent increase to the tax structure, because we spend nearly as much on healthcare as we do on the public schools. Not quite.
And here we're going back to 802.
And well, no, I mean, well, that's what he was talking about. And,
right.
I mean, that's the only state question on the ballot at the moment.
Yeah.
And so the problem is that's going to be where it impacts.
Yeah.
And that will be delayed for about 3 years when we really feel it.
Yeah. So I'm trying to tell people, please get out and vote, and please realize you won't be in and out in 5 minutes like you used to be, probably. You know.
Right. It's going to move slower like everything else is, you know, and it's how they're doing it these days.
And
it's
not like it's a long ballot that takes forever to fill out. It's a short ballot.
Right. So before we go, for the sake of some viewers, before we move off of State Question 802 and the idea, because they're catching up with the discussion, the comments are, even though we've moved on. So the idea of socialism that's presented in State Question 802, do you, Davids, believe that it is the broken home and the lost children to parenting, the single parenting problem that leads to people in general relying on the socialism that's provided by government? I know Candace Owens, in a thing recently that was promoted, she recognized a stat that in the 60s, before LBJ killed Kennedy and gave us the welfare state, the single mother in the black community, if you want to use that term, and I don't like it, was 25%. Now it's up to 76%. Yeah. So 3/4 of the black community have no father in the home. And so the question from the viewer is, do you think these lost children from these broken homes increase to the problem of people endorsing socialism like's found in State Question 802? Davids.
Well, if I could say, you know, what was it? The Great Society basically made it possible for women to kick the old man out and let the government be the provider.
Incentive.
You know, the broken home, the lack of a two-parent home has a huge impact on the poverty rate. It just does.
Right.
And not only that, you know, it's how many government services, because Tom, in other weeks, you've talked about we're relying on the public schools to basically be our daycare. So, you know, either mom and dad can both work, or the single parent, you know, doesn't have to, you know, get their own childcare.
That's correct.
So, yeah, it is a problem. And, you know, we've just made it worse because whatever you subsidize, you get more of, not less.
That's true.
Yeah.
I see the problem is that especially those people who originally started as recipients of the benefits, that they have taught their children, and their children have taught their children to have no compunction about it. There is no longer any shame with begging other people's money, from just taking other people's money. I think it's also part of the reason that we have a higher, well, I don't know if it's actually higher, but it feels higher in the petty crime department from these same kinds of people, is because they have been taught that taking what belongs to others is not a big deal. I think that's the real issue. Did it come from these broken homes and so forth? Yeah, because the women especially were able to kick the men to the curb, who they didn't like. Maybe they would set down the rule of the house, and they didn't like that, so they kicked the men to the curb. Then the rule of, you know, and so,
well, whether it's a rule or not, it's any controlling border or any control factor, whatever, on the young youth.
Right.
I mean, the masculinity has more force due to the hardness of the male than the female does. And any male or female single parent softens on either side. It's either a female going, "You're in trouble. Oh, let me hug you, Johnny," or the father saying, "You're in trouble. Let me hug you, Johnny." The way a proper two-parent family works is the father holds the hard line and the child is nurtured by the mother. That way, the rule of law still stands, but the child's still loved. If the father has to lay down the law and then hug the child, the rule of law goes to hell.
There you go.
Yep.
Tom, you need to write a book on parenting.
They both go hand in hand.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But the question from our illustrious viewer/critic led us to that fine discussion of how the broken home leads us to the populace that will vote in favor of a socialist government to take care of you instead of letting the paternal parents take care of the children. They want the state. They want the nanny state. They want to wear the masks. They want the rules. And that's what they want. They're all children begging for control. Sickening. All right, 24 new lawmakers will be decided before November's general election. Van!
Yeah, let me get us quick in and quick out. And again, this was the lowest turnout for filings for the legislature. It's probably that I can recall in the 40 years I've been in Oklahoma. And so after 3 days of filing back in April, we had a third of our legislature had already been elected for another 2-year or 4-year term, whatever it was, House or Senate. But then tomorrow, because only one party is viable for a particular seat, we become far more polarized. Another 24 people will be elected tomorrow. That means a couple of cases, you got 2 Democrats, and that's all that's running. But in most of the cases, it's only Republicans running, not even an independent running in the November election. And this is why I say tomorrow is a more important election day than November is for state politics, not national, but state.
Right.
So those are the things coming up tomorrow. You don't want to miss out on being a part of this. You know, as one of my friends says, if you don't vote, you don't get the bitch.
Yeah, you know, Van, what you say about state politics, it does extend to the national. I saw Val Demings taking shots at our president. She's nothing but a House rep from Florida. Thank God Willie J. Montauk is out there battling for her seat. Every elected official matters, even the most minimal seat of any house.
Even the appointed bureaucrats like fire marshal who will take half the count of a Trump rally and impact national politics because Bynum picked the wrong guy.
Yeah, I mean, look at Dr. Fauci. I just know if you go downtown and you don't wear a mask, you don't care about people. The guy makes me sick, okay? Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. I didn't eat 50 years of feminist crap to not be able to also say equal like a man, my body, my choice. You know what you can eat and you know where you can go. And I will not wear a mask until I decide I want to wear a mask. My body, my choice. Bye, Felicia. I'm pretty sick of it at this point. 50 years of feminist crap. All right, I'm done. I'm over it.
What do we got?
24 new lawmakers. That's how important tomorrow's vote is in state politics. And now, don't forget, you're still watching and tuned in with blazing speed of the internet to 3D Politics. Tommy McKay, your fantastic and viable host, with David Van from SoonerPolitics.org and David Oldham from ConstitutionalGrounds.com. Cutting edge stuff every Monday night with 3D Politics. And now the BOK. Last week, the Trump campaign, the sabotage. Go, Van.
I got to eat crow, Tom.
And I'm serving it.
You were picking on the BOK, and Oldham and I are saying, no, this wasn't BOK. It wasn't BOK. It took a week, but this morning, Gateway Pundit broke the news. Tom, your instincts were right. It was the BOK. The people that walked off their job, causing the gates to be closed a couple hours early, were BOK employees.
Thank you. Bipartisan tax dollars spent to support the BOK so they can hire a partisan crew to screw up any event they want. This is bull crap, and we don't have to have a pandemic to know that if we all pitch in our money to buy something, we'll all share it is a bad idea. It's a bad idea. It was in 6th grade with Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and it is today with the BOK.
Yep. So
Oldham, what do you got? Oldham is like, damn, Tom, shut up. What, Oldham, say it.
Remember, the BOK is just another socialist project.
How do we fix it? How do we fix it? How do we stop the socialist wave of every dipshit person thinks that it's a good idea to throw their money in?
Well, we have to start talking about it. Let's face it. Who says this stuff?
DBJ and GT Bynum.
Socialist project.
I'm the only guy in Tulsa that waited for 3 years to get my penny back before the Vision 2025 thing. And I was trying to ask Dewey Bartlett Jr. on the air with Pat Campbell, when did you change your mind? Because when you passed the temporary tax, it was temporary, but then in 3 years it turned into something you wanted to make permanent. So when did Dewey Bartlett Jr. change his mind and sell me out on the idea that the penny was temporary? Because I want my penny back. I'm the one guy, I want my $2. You ever see that movie? Better Off Dead, little kid wants his $2. I'm collecting for the newspaper. I want my penny. Okay, but no, they act now like it's permanent. So what I'm saying is, how do we get to the point where we hold people accountable? Even Pat Campbell and the sitting mayor at the time denied that the word increase taxes that was in the ballot language meant increasing taxes, because once we do our hoopty law, it all comes out back at zero. And I'm like, I don't care what your shell game is. I'm voting on words, and words say the word increase. Don't act like we don't know what the word increase is. Dewey Bartlett Jr. has been working on the 2020 for 3 years. I'm almost over it.
Well, here's the answer to your question. How do we reverse it? How do we change it?
Right.
First off, we have to start talking about it. We have to start talking about it in the right terms. That's been my big bugaboo about the Republican Party and conservatism is they don't talk about the actual root problems. They talk about taxation and the increases as the problem, rather than this misspending and the improper or the abuse of their authority to tax. Okay?
Right.
That's really where we have to start talking about it. And then the why and the what about it needs to be pointed out. It's socialist. Let's make no bones about it. G.T. Bynum is a socialist. Okay.
Right. Well, fascist socialist,
yeah.
Collectivist, yes, yes.
And fascism is a form of socialism.
Correct. I'll go with that.
So with that being said, let's understand exactly what's going on. Let's start talking about it. Let's start making our elders who have been on these programs for a lifetime nearly, and expect to remain on it for the rest of their lives, let's start pushing back a little bit, because it was them and their parents who started this whole thing and have been continuing it. And let's start talking about it. I want to give up Social Security. I want to give up any chance at Sooner Care, Medicaid, Medicare, all of that. I don't care about that.
Van has dropped. Van, what do you got?
So let's get out of socialism.
Well, I want to talk about the guts of this story about the arena. And it was at the Gateway Pundit, and you go to 3D Politics Live on Facebook and see the story that the management got caught tweeting, gloating that they shut down the Trump campaign, screwed them over, and the tweet finally got captured and made aware. I got a call from a citizen who said she was out there for an hour and a half of closed gates until her husband on the phone, and they were out there with like several hundred people, okay?
Right.
And once they saw Trump was giving his speech and they still weren't opening the gates back up, they'd waited an hour and a half there, they turned around and went home. So You know, this is a problem. The stickers that it was secretly, the day of, they put a sticker on every other seat saying, social spacing, sit somewhere else. And they wanted to keep the numbers way down. And for several hours, they weren't letting any more people in because of these stickers. Finally, the Trump campaign was late getting to it, and they started telling all of their volunteers, start ripping those stickers off, and they got the lower part filled, but there was just all kinds of sabotage things happening. And as soon as they catch one, then the management's pulling another stunt and another stunt. And then all of a sudden, all the healthcare workers were gone.
And one of the things that I noticed is the absolute lack of any city promotion of such a big event. And it's certainly promotion of things like traffic and how to maneuver, whether or not there would be buses provided, any of that thing, which would have happened on many of these other big.
They tell you with the state fair, line up here, get on the shuttle bus there, make sure you got the wrist there.
Okay, let me drive Oldham's point home real clear. Yeah. When you shut down a road, it's your responsibility, city, to put the detour sign up, telling people how to get around it. When you close down, you got to let people know where the gates are. They did none of that.
Yeah, right. They didn't do any of that.
On Friday, I drove down there in the afternoon. The gates were up, and it's over a 2-mile circumference that they closed up. And I couldn't find all the gates. It wasn't until Saturday.
And it was segmented because some gates led into the BOK, but some gates led to the next section to the other gate. I had 2 reporters from holy.shitdude.com get a hold of me and send me footage. It was a little rambunctious, but I mean, they were explaining to me, if you weren't there, it's like a day ahead of time and way, there was no way you were getting in. There's no way. It was almost impossible to get in.
Yeah, I don't buy that because I showed up at about 1:30 in the afternoon and I got in twice.
Okay, well these guys are full of it from whenever they went.
Mind you, at the east gate where the protesters were, that got shut down and the health workers left. That was and mind you, those should not have been BOK employees all the way out there. That was city area. That we're talking several blocks.
Okay, that's where holy.shit.com was. That's where holy.shit.com was over by the protesters. And so they were like, we're not getting anywhere around here. So they were in the wrong place.
Well, really. If they showed up after the protesters got there and clogged up that street, they weren't going to get in at that gate. They would have had to find one of the other gates.
That's what they were talking about.
Advertised, certainly not by.
Okay, all right. So they weren't totally lost, but they were in the wrong place.
Yeah. And Tom, the other important constitutional thing is my daughter's got friends that have a condominium downtown. It's the old YMCA was turned into apartment condominiums.
Yeah.
And they could not get in their condominium for those 2 days without going through metal detectors and even getting a stick, and all that stuff. And they weren't even going to the event. This is the kind of crap that GT Bynum just was AWOL about.
Every time you
failed.
Oh my God.
Failed.
It was a pathetic example when Sesame Street does that thing, one of these things doesn't go with the other. There's an opposite thing where everybody's there except for one person. Every Republican person just being basically tolerant of honor of office was there to represent the Republican Party, but GT Bynum was the missing pixel.
And here's the thing, Tom. If GT Bynum was a stand-up guy, if he was an honorable man, he'd be calling a press conference and he'd be demanding answers from the management team. We pay them too much money for them to pull this kind of crap on us and ruin the reputation of our good city.
Hell, he should have said, I disagree with Trump 100%. Welcome to our city, Mr. President. My God, can you be a man and get some testicles?
He's pathetic.
Insane.
He's absolutely pathetic, and his silence speaks loud.
You don't have to agree with somebody just to be honorable and welcome them to the party. I mean, hell, I even talked to BOK.
Yep.
So anyway, that's a good report on that BOK management, and thank you for giving me credit that my spidey sense was on it. It's a fascistic routine where we spend our bipartisan dollars for partisan representation. It's full of crap. We should have never gone with the collective version of the 2020 package, which is why GT Bynum should lose his position coming up in the mayoral race. Is he promoted the Vision 2020 package, the 2025 package. He likes the BOK run like it is. The zoo is run the same way. The Gilcrease Museum is run the same way. We spent $1 million, according to G.T. Bynum's suggestion, on the PAC just for planning and development. And we're still paying the tax to plan and develop for the PAC. Who owns the PAC? Anybody? Anybody? Does the city of Tulsa own the PAC? No! They sold the PAC to the Trust Foundation. You got any representation from that? The Trust? Hell no. Well, what about another philanthropic organization? Anybody want one of those?
Yes.
It's not like I care.
Yeah, we've got, what are trusts? We've got the airport. That's a trust. The city owns it, but yet they don't own it. All of these big, I mean, even the gathering place is a trust, right? And then the city county park department, that's a trust. I mean, all of the assets of our city are tied up in trust that we have no say over.
We have zero control over, and they're allowed to go on without balancing their budget because the city's held to a budget that's balanced every year, but the trust is not. And so they screw the taxpayers out of saying, oh, let's give the money to the city. And the city says, yeah, we'll put it over here in the trust and screw you taxpayers. They did the same thing with the bond issue in 1990 or 95 with the Tulsa Public Schools. We spent $90 million to upgrade the Tulsa Public Schools for the highway of the internet, and then they promptly sold the buildings out from under us after we paid tax dollars to get it ready for the students. We get screwed every time running.
Yep. Fascism is sometimes worse than socialism.
Well, and I talk about we should have never spent the collective money on the gathering place, which should be renamed the social distancing place. And so, but everybody's like, we couldn't see the pandemic coming. And I'm like, you don't have to. Collectivism is a bad plan, whether a pandemic's coming or not. You don't have to foresee anything. By definition, socialism in government equals rationing. The starting formula is we know we don't have enough to feed everybody. So what we'll do is calculate how many everybody's we have and divide by that. We immediately start rationing. That is socialism.
Yeah. By the way, the zoning people came by the other day and told me that I need to cut my grass. I just told them, I said, no, it's in a trust now, like the gathering place. I want to be cool and hip and let everything grow like weeds like they do down there.
It's a wildflower plot.
That's right.
Okay, we're getting anything else before I close the table?
Let's go.
Okay, that was the BOK management caught slaughtering the attendance at the Trump rally. But now we're moving on. You're still tuned in, and I know you are. Some of you, I know you are still tuned in to 3D Politics. It's Monday night. It's well past 7, but we're still going on. We've got a couple more topics. We are going to talk about the police shooting in Tulsa, the most important news of the day here locally. We've got more to talk about, but once again, I'm Tommy McKay, your fine host on 3D Politics Live. I've got David Van from SoonerPolitics.org and David Oldham from ConstitutionalGrounds.com. You know where to find everybody. We're going to move on now to the Freedom Index 2020 champions and betrayers. I love this. Van has got all the numbers. If you are a number freak and you love grids, stay tuned. You're going to love it. He's got all the numbers and how it figures in. Let's do it now. Freedom Index 2020.
I'm telling you, I'm glad we got at least this out. We've got the
This
House Index out. We don't have the Senate yet, but most of the elections tomorrow involve the House members, okay? So I got this out in time for everybody to look at today, tonight, call your friends tomorrow and say, oh my God, we got the wrong guy in there. Let's get him out.
Keep going. I'm going to get popcorn and a beer.
Yeah, so Freedom Index is published by Sooner Politics. Oldham here is one of the people that I highly rely on, for input on that. We've got a number of different civil rights and, constitutional rights groups on particular different issues, whether it's parenting, medical privacy, or, Second Amendment rights, all kinds of constitutional rights are reflected here. And so we put together what we call the Freedom Index. And wow, every year I just say, wow, when I find out who some of the people are at the top of it. Now, I just want to let you know the article's on SoonerPolitics.org. It's the headline here. And here he is, a lawyer from Tulsa. Terry O'Donnell beats all scores, and he is our #1 champion for restoring and protecting individual rights. Does that mean he's perfect? God, no. But out of 100 possible, now this is a spectrum of between a -100, which means you're the enemy every vote, to you're the hero every vote, he scored a positive 85. So he's very close. He did get some bonus points because the first bill that we scored for it had to do with privacy, and he was the author of it. So I give him an extra 5 points on that.
Hold on, you get an extra 5 points for being the author of the bill.
You do.
And if it's a good bill, you get your 10 points for voting for it. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, and I'll go into the scores here in a little bit, but I want to show you, rounding up, our top 4 was Kevin West, David Harden, and David Smith. Now, David Smith and David Harden are freshmen. They just got there. So last year, 2 of our guys who tied for second, let's see, we had Dean Davis and who is our other guy? Jay Stiegel, both freshmen.
Nice. Leave that up. I'm memorizing names. So you're saying the two new guys are Harden and Smith?
Yes, they are. Yeah, right. And then now Kevin West there with the bald head, he's been there. I think this is his 3rd term, if I remember right. Good guy. Or maybe he just finished his 2nd. He's running for his 3rd. Actually, he got elected. He's one of those that nobody filed against him back in April, so he's in. So,
nice.
But what I want to get to is, we have our list here. And if you'll notice here, we've got in blueprint across the top is called, these are the bill numbers. So if you go to SoonerPolitics.org and you pull up this, you can click on any one of these and it'll take you to that bill and it'll tell you something about it. Now, I'm just going to go through real quick, and Oldham's going to have, I think, some things to say.
Okay.
First one. Privacy, personal privacy. That means the government can't snoop on you and then go publishing. Do you know he belongs to the Masons? Or
okay, hold on. This is the criteria for how we grade. Is that correct? Yes. So a person writes a bill, and whatever the content of the bill is, you go through this criteria to figure out how it formulates in the Freedom Index.
Right.
Okay, do it.
What he does is he takes he chooses the bills that most represent, that would best represent a balance for freedom.
Freedom bills. Okay.
Go through both houses so you can grade everybody equally.
Okay.
And then he chooses the bills, and he's choosing the bills blind. In other words, he doesn't know who's voted for what, how.
Right.
Okay.
He just goes and chooses bills based on their ballot validity.
Gotcha. All right. Further.
Now, I'll be square with you guys. I consulted a number of groups and a number of other different scoring index that focus on different things. And I noticed some of them had some of these same bills. I looked at it and like, yeah, that's a fundamental liberty issue. And here's the tough thing this year is because we had this COVID interruption, all of a sudden that last 2 weeks, they were all told, okay, we're going to take all the bills having to do with, let's say, medical marijuana. And now instead of 12 bills on the floor, we're going to throw them all into one, and it's a straight up yes or no. Well, some of those are good and some of those maybe not so good, And so it's hard to score things like that, these omnibus bills. But these were some that were clean enough. They're most of them from early in the session. and we're able to talk about it. Some were parental rights. Some were things like if your kid in the back seat who's 17 takes his seatbelt off and the cop happens to be driving by and notices it, Dad, do you get a ticket for what your kid just did? You know, and really, who's he harming? Who's the victim?
Really, Dad should get a spanking by the cop.
So, yeah, that's one of the things. Some of them are actually throwing out regulations to make it easier for cottage industries to get going without the heavy hand of the health department saying, no, you got to build a $50,000 commercial kitchen. You know,
oh my God, any person who has ever run a kitchen, worked in a kitchen, and dealt with the health department knows they are the most unruly, communistic, authoritarian people you've ever dealt. Look at Dr. Dart and Dr. Fauci. My God, I'm not sure we can have football today because, you know, my God.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry.
So let me just go off this and then we'll take this down from the board here. You see a lot of green 10s and you see a lot of red -10s.
Yeah, what's that?
So basically, now this is the high end. These guys have mostly greens, right? But then you start going down. Oh, you see those blue names in blue squares? Those are Democrats. Look at Marilyn Bell scored. Now, it was a 0. Now, 0 doesn't mean nothing. It means you're halfway in the spectrum between the -100 and positive.
Gotcha. It's in the middle of them. Yeah.
Look at all the Republicans who scored beneath her.
Wow.
Okay? So she was more of a defender of my liberty and yours, my freedom's yours, than a lot of these Democrats.
I mean, the Republicans.
Are a lot of Republicans.
Yeah, thank you.
All the way down here. Look at Del Curbs. He scored a -40. Do you know what was the worst score of any of them last year? -40. He's as bad as the worst Democrat was last year.
Tying the record for worst.
Well, last year's, yes.
Well,
now, there's some other.
This year, the overall average dropped from what was it last year? 28 something.
28.8 was the average score last year.
What is it this year?
6.8.
We're not through the year though.
Well, the session's over.
We're through.
Okay. So it's a fair comparison. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, so this is worth looking at. And again, this is free. There's no subscription. Soonerpolitics.org. And I put the link on 3D Politics Live. It'll also be up on our blog. So people
this is an excellent understanding. And you can disagree with the way it's put together and the way you analyze and everything, but it's a solid wall to cling to or push against. It's information nobody else has. And so that's great.
I went through each of our 10 bills, so you can see some of them might be a right to life.
Right.
Some of them, might be, things like parental rights. Like, does a judge take over your parenting authority when your kid turns 16? Well, as it pertains to marriage, yes, they do. And a Democrat made a bill, and he got the Republicans to support it, or many of the Republicans, where your kid, when they're 16 and unruly and not following the rules, all they can do is go to the judge and say, I think I want to get married. Can you emancipate me so I don't have to follow my parents' rules? And they say, yeah, sure, because you're getting married. So then like, when you get married, well, I haven't decided when. I really don't know who. But now that I'm emancipated, it doesn't matter. These kinds of things undermine the cohesiveness of the family, especially in those turbulent teen years.
Right.
So again, this is how broad a spectrum we go into.
So the Freedom Index every year, this year's the Freedom Index 2020. This is some fantastic analysis that's put through a matrix and a metric of numbers with careful calculations of units of measure. And this is a great opportunity to analyze. If you look at the general index and you think you agree or disagree, the beautiful thing that Van has done for us all is you can go deeper into it to learn and find out more about whether you agree with it or not. This is a fine analysis. I don't think any other state has this kind of thing that I know of. I mean, I'm not an expert in what they have, but you're doing a great service to the state, if you ask me.
Yeah, I talked to Freedom Works, who's the national outfit, and they were really intrigued by this. But one of the things, and Oldham was with me when we went to the Capitol back in February, and I handed out the playing cards because these guys, once I had the Senate in there, then I'm going to put them all together. The top 52 make the deck, the honor roll deck.
Right.
And yeah, I tell you what, you know, Eccles, I think, was like Jack of clubs, and I brought some extra decks with me to have. He bought, well, no, he bought a bunch, and then Senator Joe Newhouse cleaned me out. Everything I got, he wanted, you know, yeah, it was a big deal. And
that's funny.
And I'm able to, because of this, and because we find out people that score high in this that we weren't expecting, it's an opportunity to build new relationships of trust, because they see that I'm willing, even though many of our politics and other issues might not be the same, we have this agreement on the core principles of individual rights.
And your filter that you built with this, with this entire Freedom Index allows us to see where some politicians have a great persona of being freedom oriented, but if you really look and you give it any analysis with some knowledge, you'll see they're negative 40.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Some of them you find out they're just talk.
Yeah, exactly.
As you get closer and closer to, when you look at something like freedom, when you look at the Constitution, now we're talking objective, not subjective.
Yes.
Analysis, because so many of like the conservative index, those are so subjective. You know, you might or might not agree with it, but when we start talking about freedom, this is actually your property. Yeah. We're talking about an objective, real thing here.
Yeah. Yeah, because
constitutionally speaking, objectively within the freedom defined by the Constitution. No, freedom is, you know, constitutional freedom.
And Oldham, you know, since we got the cat out of the bag and stuff, Steve Bias, who's a good friend of mine, has been the publisher of the Oklahoma Constitution for 36 years, I think now. They've been doing the conservative index. And he gets OPAC, which is a conservative political action committee group, to do that with them. And sometimes I get the sense that it's a matter of, well, we want to replace liberal controls with conservative controls,
other controls, right?
Or faith-based intolerance. Well, and you know, we'll show you that.
Always,
that ad nauseam.
Always. Is it not always a continual right? Thank you. Right, but it's so true, though. I mean, there's the two sides of the coin. The repeat of history continues to repeat because we keep washing out the history. Nobody can learn anything from yesterday because today's new flagrant. All the stuff that was hot 7 days ago means nothing now. I mean, which I want to plug also. Tomorrow night, Van and I may have a special guest, but we're going to do some election returns. What time are we coming on, Van?
We really should wait till about 8:30 to come on, and maybe give it a good hour, because about 8 o'clock you start getting some meaningful numbers. And I think
I don't know. I held during the mayor's race in 2016. I held a solid 2% between 7 and 8. So
there you go. Yeah,
that's a joke, man.
But I want to be able to.
Two.
You know, look, I've been to enough watch parties. I've been watch partied out, and that
nothing means anything till after 8. I mean, 2. Come on, how could I possibly have 2% at 7:15? These guys are full of crap.
Okay, so anyway,
so we're coming on live tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Is that right?
I would say 8:30.
Okay.
You know, we might jump the gun if the train's about to leave the station without us, but
I'll bring a shark. Let's jump that.
Hey, you want it? Yeah, okay. So should we do that on Sooner Politics then?
Anything you want, man.
Okay, good. We're gonna do it, and tell your friends, you know, if you don't feel like running around eating a bunch of, you know, salmonella-filled whatever, you know, eating chips out of a common dip bowl.
Oh, this is a collective flavor. Hey, so does that mean I'm like a guest host on Sooner Politics?
Yeah.
Yeah, promotion, everybody. Hey, guess what? I've just been promoted.
But I'm not sharing my dip bowl with you, Tom.
I never double dip with those that have unclean hands.
All right. So we're going to do that. So, Oldham, what else? Anything more on Freedom Index?
No, I think we've pretty well covered it. I mean, go to soonerpolitics.org and look at the Freedom Index, especially for tomorrow's election. You may be surprised at what you find about your incumbent and some of the things that they are saying in their flyers not quite lining up with what they voted. So,
I want to say, and it's only because I care so much, what Van has done to put this index together is a labor of love. It's much like Michael Bates and Baseline. You may not agree with everything he ever said or angle. If you want to know how to hate or love, go to the soonerpolitics.org and the Freedom Index. All right, we're going to move on now. Are we ready to finish it off with the final story? I'm closing the table.
The most important story tonight.
Yeah, this is.
Is there anything else?
No.
So today, and Van, have you got, So today there was a police shooting, once again, in the call by Democrats nationwide to defund the police and let's get rid of law and order, because we live in this horrible world that we live in. Even though other countries are so bad, we're not moving from America to burn down their statues because we live there now. They're moving here to burn down our statues. But 2 Tulsa cops are actually shot over this wild man running amok. Van, tell us about it.
Well, yeah, and basically he was stopped because they said, you bought your car, I understand, and you got this paper license good for 30 days, but you went beyond 30 days, and now we're going to take your car from you, and you don't get it out until you pay, which could end up being about $1,000, especially when you start having to figure impounding fees. And this could be a make or break for a working family who, might be struggling, especially with the downturn, in the economy and stuff. So sure enough, they're fighting them over it. Oldham's really got more to say on it than me, but I just want to let you know, you can get the details from Sooner Politics. And yes, I've got a pretty nasty take on this about the legislature I'll get into later. So,
okay, Oldham, what's your take?
Let's first go through real quickly what actually happened.
Yeah.
So they pulled him over, and Dave did a good job of getting started. But let's go a little deeper dive.
Yeah.
They pulled him over. He has paper tags. They're expired. There were 2 police officers, the one who made the traffic stop, and a sergeant pulled up. They decided that they were going to take his car. Because they were going to take his car, they ordered him to get out. He said, no, this is a violation of my rights, and refused to get out of the car. They then initiated violence to get him out of the car by tasering him and attempting to extract him from the car. During some of this struggle, because he was able to defeat the taser, during this struggle, he retrieved a gun that was somewhere in the car and ended up shooting both of the police officers.
In the head, both of them in the head, from what I understand. I read an article. The way I read the article is that this guy's a damn good shot. He hit both these guys in the head. That's the way I read the article.
Okay, that may well be. I just hadn't heard that.
I'm just saying. You hear about shots being fired all the time. Nobody hits anybody. This dude he hit both of these police officers in the head. Both of them required surgery. Both of them are fighting for their lives tonight.
And I feel bad for everyone involved in this. Now, I know that there's a lot of people who aren't involved or aren't feeling much for the perpetrator. But here's the problem. And here's why we need to have a completely different take. We need to relook at this entire thing. And this is being portrayed, and in the photo that David put up of the police, the press conference, it was a big law and order. This is about law and order. And we know you know that I'm a big law and order guy from the constitutional perspective. And here's the problem. Paper tags, the licensing requirement for your property,
damn it,
is 100% illegal.
Yeah, he just castled us, guys. That's what happened.
And so the problem is that these law and order guys are actually lawlessness and extortion people.
All right.
When you look at GT Bynum, when you look at the police chief, when you look at DA Kunzweiler and the U.S. attorney from Northern Oklahoma in the press conference, what you are seeing is 4 people who would not respect the rights of the driver, only the rights of the police officers who were actually in the commission of a crime.
What Van said a couple of weeks ago or last week or whenever that was, the old man gets in front of the people, he gets pushed over, he busts his head, and Van was suggesting properly, I thought, that these guys are doing what they're told, right? And the higher ups are the ones that should be held accountable. This is my remember I got 3 this last week. I did the Facebook thing. I had 3 boards cut, and I said I had 1 board cut out of 3 that I bought. I said cut it exactly in half, and he says how long is it? And really, does it matter? Cut it in half. But when it was over and he cut it wrong, the question is, was it the gender, the race, the training, the company, or the public schools? So what I'm saying is, where do you hold somebody accountable?
The individual. The point is that ignorance of the law is no excuse. And here's the problem.
Van's got one coming. Go ahead.
And while the individual has been mistrained, miseducated, and lied to by the media and their parents and everybody else you can possibly ever imagine. The point is that does not absolve them of individual responsibility.
Right. They make the choice to do the wrong decision. Van, what do you got?
And I go way further back than that. I mean, I don't disagree with what Oldham says. And I actually have some sympathy for the guys that wear the badge, because they're often, we don't hear about it when they get fired because they miss quota, or they weren't tough enough, or they let too many people off. Here's what happened in the last 10 years, or maybe 12 years, is that if you used to be, because this is nothing more than he's late paying a tax. When you buy a vehicle and register it, you're actually paying a massive tax in order to register it. You're paying now, because of a huge tax increase 2 years ago, you're paying both an excise tax and a sales tax. But what made it even worse was about 10 years ago, they said, if you don't have all your papers in order, now the police are authorized to impound the vehicle on the spot, which is going to result in just fees to get your car out of the storage of several $100s. And the cops aren't going to help you with that. They're not. There are some damages the cops do that cannot be undone. And good luck trying to sue the city to recover it. Because they're good at this game. Here's where I'm going after. I'm going after our legislature on this, because they've turned our peace officers into tax collectors.
Almost worse. See, I'm the only guy. Remember a couple of years ago or a year ago, where like the cops pull somebody over and give them a Christmas turkey or a gift card. I'm like, that's bull crap. I mean, talk about, if you want to disrespect and lose respect and actions unbecoming of an officer and disrespectful of the uniform, pull somebody over and give them a turkey. That's total crap. Okay, that's not risking your life during a routine traffic stop. What I'm saying is, Van, you're right. The legislature has told these guys to do the wrong things.
Tom, they've turned the peace officers into the Sheriff of Nottingham from the Tales of Robin Hood, okay? Where they're more concerned about revenue generating, speeding tickets. That's really where they get most of their operating budget for the police department. Okay, so it's more and more about, you got to do all these things. What led to the riots in Ferguson, Missouri? It's because they were operating most of their city government off of ticket writing.
Right.
Okay, Rand Paul exposed that whole thing. This is what's going on here. And this is nothing more with registering. It becomes a law of government convenience. They're going to make you jump through hoops and get all these things so they can keep tabs on you better.
I agree. And the whole concept of what it is an advertising marketing ploy. When they advertise through Facebook and social media that the police pulled people over and give them money, give them a turkey, or give them a gift card, this is nothing but advertising to build that thing you're talking about. They're building the advertising so that they can build the quota.
Yeah. So
they don't.
Sure.
So that's a big part of it. And our legislature's got to make a change here. And here's the problem. You've got a few people in the legislature who are heavily funded to get elected by the law enforcement lobby and the district attorney's lobby and stuff. And anybody who doesn't agree with them, guess what they get called? You're soft on crime.
Right. Well, and I would ask this question. What was this man's crime? Who did he hurt? What is all that money actually going to pay, and how much of it is actually legitimate?
Right.
But really, who was hurt here? And so the thing is that this escalated into a life and death struggle. And I have a feeling that what will be argued is in court. We'll see as time goes whether it goes that far. But I think what I would certainly be arguing would be self-defense, in that these people were trying to steal my property under color of law. They escalated into violence, and then it was just self-defense, and convince a jury of that. And I can totally see that as legitimate.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is why Oldham is on the 3D Politics show, because that is effing brilliant. Yeah. And that actually answers the question I had for you earlier. How do we fix this, bridge the gap between they're doing unconstitutional things? How do we, right there, you take it to court like that, and you force it.
Before this even happened, I think it was Saturday, I posted up to social media, I pledge I will invoke jury nullification wherever the Constitution requires.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw it.
You have to. You have to. And if enough of us do that to where, politically they realize, my God, we can't even seat a jury who will do our bidding for us, maybe they'll change.
Here's the thing. By being open about it, you'll never actually be seated on a jury. Because remember,
no.
The question
you killjoy. I just built you up, and then you just jumped right off the...
No. Here's the thing. You have to keep it quiet, because one of the questions they will ask under penalty of perjury is, will you judge solely based on the statute?
Oh, yeah. You got to lie.
And that is something that should never be asked, because the jury has the right to judge the statute as well, whether or not the statute is actually legitimate. So you have these, you have a license plate violation that should be you should be able to nullify that in court, but they might not allow you.
Okay, Van.
How many elected officials or appointed officials, whether they're in law enforcement, however they serve, military, include in this oath to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic? Let's talk about domestic enemies of our Constitution. Mm-hmm. And we are cajoling, we are pressuring the men in blue to become just that, enemies of the Constitution. Well, I don't think they want to. I think they want to be peace officers.
I could not agree with you more, David. The problem is, and this comes down to why I'm putting it on the police. Now, don't get me wrong. The legislature has their part in it, but the police and the executive branch, whether it be local or the state level, have the duty to disobey unconstitutional laws or not enforce unconstitutional laws. That is their duty, just like the military must not obey.
Here's the deal, Oldham. You cannot, in today's national society, where even though each police officer joins the local or the state or whatever, there's a national guideline when you become a police officer. And when you do, what you're suggesting the police officers do is deny that. What I'm saying is, before you can become a bona fide police officer where you might encounter a situation that you have to deny the urge to do something unconstitutional, you've already agreed to do 1,000 unconstitutional things. You can't get to be a police officer without guaranteeing you're going to do unconstitutional things all the way down the line. So the answer to your question is, we have to have people who are willing to join the police force as private infiltrators to become police officers and lie all the way through the point to where when they get to the point of contention during the pullover, they do the constitutional thing.
Well,
good luck.
Or
yeah,
they need to expose things as they come up. And
you'll never get through training if you do the constitutional routine.
That's what you end up. If that's the way it is, then let's expose that. And
what I'm saying from what I'm
nobody gets through if they're constitutional.
My presumption is, and it is a total presumption. My suggestion based on what I'm learning from you that I think is true is that they're operating a totally unconstitutional concept. And in policing, by the time it gets to the news, the police officer that does the unconstitutional act has already gone through training and weeks and stuff where he's already showed the group, I'm going to do the unconstitutional thing. There's the odds of the police officer changing his mind after weeks and weeks and weeks of training and then on the job duty. He's literally not going to suddenly become constitutional. So cops aren't going to change like that. The only answer I can show to be within your existential reality is people need to infiltrate the cops with the purposeful intention of getting all the way to the traffic stop where he can do the constitutional thing and deny the licensing.
Tom, I'm going to
annul it from inside.
Okay, I'm going to reach across the riot line right now with the people who've been protesting on police brutality last week. Because there's something they're doing which can be a very positive thing. It's called pushback. And look, it's good to have people across the political spectrum all agreeing on this principle of individual liberties, of human rights. And if we can focus on that and not allow any of the other political ideologies to get in the way of agreement on that, we could truly change things in a good way.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
The opportunity is there. Now, are my hopes very high? No, I'm sorry, they're not. But the opportunity today exists if we can go there.
Oh, and I think the opportunity today is higher than it's ever been in our lifetime.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I think the time is about right. There's going to be plenty of people who are not going to hear this message and not going to like it. I mean, I put out basically a little blurb on every news story that I could find that came out today, and I have gotten mostly negative pushback on it. I was surprised about a couple of the people who liked what I said, but the point is that I think that because it's not been done before, it has not been done. What we're talking about doing, we could see some major reform. We're also going to have to push for judicial reform because really nothing's going to happen until that happens as well. But, one step at a time.
Yeah, so, if you think of the case that happened down in Georgia on the East Coast, Brunswick, I believe, Adrian Aubrey, was that his name? Who a couple of guys, vigilantes, one of them used to be a cop. You wonder where he got that attitude from, his years of entitlement because he had a badge. And when they confronted Mr. Aubrey with the gun, Adrian was within his human civil rights to preemptively seek to
defend himself,
right, to nullify that threat on his life.
Right.
That was a brandishing that happened. Okay. What Oldham here is saying is being hit with the taser in this motorist's mind, Oldham says there's a narrative there that says, hey, I was assaulted, battered, with an electronic device attempting to paralyze me.
Well, and based on the traffic stop, because the traffic stop was actually illegal to begin with.
Yeah.
Remember, if the license is illegal, as I'm contending, then the stop itself was illegal. Therefore, everything that followed was illegal.
His tax bill 15 years ago would have been less than half, and he would have merely been written a citation from the cop and sent on his way.
Correct.
So in the last 15 years of Oklahoma getting tough on crime, here's what we're left with.
Well, people wonder why there's a flashpoint, and it has been pointed out most recently by Rex Lawhorn that the reality of the psychological profile of both police officers and violent criminals are essentially the same. They're both in a fight or flight, and I'm adding to his comment now, they're both in a fight or flight. If you do anything that scares me, I'll shoot to kill, you know, and they're both there.
Right.
And so, I mean,
but
also, while I've got the point being made, I want to add to Oldham's point that like an accessory to a murder or a manslaughter, where whatever you were doing during the commission of the robbery, you did not intend to kill, but you did. The same thing is true of licensing in this death or injury, and that is that, you know, you were just doing a licensing check or whatever, and you didn't intend to get shot, and you didn't intend to do harm, and etc. But the accessory to the crime is the licensure law. It's the licensure law that created the flashpoint where these two violent people came together, police officers and criminals.
Okay, but let's look at the Atlanta shooting of the guy in the Wendy's. And the police are all backing the other cop and saying, wait a minute, I got hit with a taser. That's deadly force. I'm within my rights to turn around, shoot and kill him, shoot him in the back. Well, now when you flip it, now all of a sudden the cops are like, oh, no, that's not justification for taking a gun out. Right. So I'm like, what is it, guys? What is it?
They get it both ways.
This really hinges on whether the police officers stop. Their actions were lawful. Because remember, every law ultimately leads to death, because if you're going to enforce it, somebody doesn't want to submit, then it leads to death. So the point is that, is this something that we should even have? And again, I argue it's a rights violation, and because it's a rights violation, and what they were doing was a violation of his due process rights. They were committing a Fourth Amendment, which was created by the legislature, a Fourth Amendment violation, and illegally seizing his property.
Yeah.
But with that, they were, if I am correct, I mean, let's just say, I know I'm
85%. You're correct. Go ahead.
Anyway, the point is that with that being the case, let's just give that for a moment. Then that means that everything else they did to initiate force was illegal, and therefore he had every right to then defend himself, as he did.
Yeah.
If it was something else and he was a murder suspect and he then didn't comply, then I would be on the absolute opposite end of this thing.
Right.
And the police would have been fully in their right, and he would be a murderer.
Well, the difference is you actually have a victim in that scenario. But here's my point. If things don't change in Oklahoma City with our statutes, we can expect more and more and more of this to happen, because we're setting ourselves up for it. Because what other tax delinquency do you get your stuff taken without even at first having a day in court? And this is the problem here. We set up this as a special thing where cops can just grab your stuff at will and you don't get it back. And last I checked, you know, my property tax on my house was late. They didn't come take my house, kick me out in the middle of the night.
Well, they will if you keep it up.
Law enforcement has become so arbitrary. Arbitrary enforcement of law is lawlessness. Yes. Somebody posted something on Facebook about, somebody got caught with illegal firearms or illegal fireworks. And I was like, in existential reality of 2020, define illegal. Just bite me. There is literally nothing illegal. So a guy's driving with a little tag that says what you don't like. You just yank him out of his car. Yeah, we're police officers, though. Yeah, but I mean, but that doesn't give them the right to shoot. Man, nobody knows anything anymore. It's very dangerous out there. They shouldn't be pulling people over for license problems right now. They might be a minority or a woman. You don't know what's going to happen when you pull somebody over.
Yep.
Sure.
You risk your life every time you give out a turkey.
Yeah, and listen, if you're here in Tulsa and you know that your friends or family here of these officers, we're not trying to add to the injuries. We're sympathizing that the cop shouldn't have to become the Sheriff of Nottingham and be the tax collector and be the heavy.
The administrators sent these cops out to the slaughter. They sent these cops out to do jobs that are incoherently dangerous and arbitrary. And it could have been anybody at any time that didn't do something, or somebody like this guy that went off nuts and did something. It's stupid administration and let's agree with the rioters to the degree that the policies have to change. Isn't that correct? The policies have to change.
Absolutely.
We can't be giving out turkeys. Cops should not be handing out turkeys and gift cards. I don't give a damn what you believe and what side you're on. And if you're in the middle, cops shouldn't pull you over and give you a turkey. It's bullcrap.
That's just an admission on their part that they have to work on their public relations.
It's nothing but an ad campaign. It's total bullcrap.
And so yes, I'm in total agreement that governance itself must be, whether it's legislative, executive, or judicial, must be reformed and made not lawless any longer and made constitutional. Because if you're not constitutional, you are lawless, because the supreme law is
That's right. That's right.
All right.
Guys, we've hammered it pretty hard. We are set. We're an hour and 44. This is basically, we're going to close that table. Anything else on that?
Nope. Go vote tomorrow.
Okay, go vote tomorrow also. And because I've got anything else before I do final closeout, anything we missed that we need to add?
Good.
I want to say one thing. Thanks. We had viewers. Next week, I'm going to mention all the viewers by name real quick because I really appreciate them being there. People who love and hate us all at the same time, or both, or either, is everything we want on 3D Politics. I am learning to try to navigate the Facebook feed while we do the Zoom. You can't watch Facebook because it's out of sync. We have to watch the Zoom if your information is coming across Facebook, so it's delayed. If you sit there and act like I'm going to have a conversation with you, you're not learning how to do this. If you want to throw shots of questions that I can lean into, I'm pleased, and in fact did tonight, work two people in, BOK and the fine libertarian candidate Rex Lawhorn. So I want to thank some people who showed up tonight. It was Blake Barber. He loves and hates us, but he's our #1 fan and #1 critic, Blake Barber. Also, it looks like we had Lori K. Gracie showed up to watch. It looks like we had Paul Tay. He had a nice comment we'll talk about next time. He says, nobody cares about the Constitution. And I think, half of that bipolar guy is right there.
By the way, he filed a state question to change the Constitution.
Did he? Oh, hey, Linda Mitchell Collier is watching. She runs the cave out there, and I'm glad to have her on board. Also, let's see, Blake. My gosh, Blake. Rex Lawhorn, like I said, thank you, Rex, for tuning in. A voice of reason out there. There was one other person, and it was Eric. Oh, Eric Austin also. And, look at there, Adam Moto tuned in. What is that? Moto tuned in. So all you people for tuning in, we appreciate it. Once again, Next Monday, you're going to catch all three of us on 3D Politics Live here on Facebook. That is David Van, SoonerPolitics.org, and David Oldham, ConstitutionalGrounds.com. And don't forget, tomorrow, special episode of Sooner Politics, where I get to guest host. I've been promoted to be a guest host to talk to David Van on the results of the election returns tomorrow night on Sooner Politics Live.
Yeah, Tom.
At 8:30. Yes, sir.
Okay, in case for some reason Facebook decides to go full-bore Nazi at some point and we don't get to do this live, it's important that people know where 3dpoliticslive.com.
Yeah, where is that?
3dpoliticslive.com. But even more important than that, because, by the way, that's on a Google server, which we can get kicked off of them, too. Hello,
okay.
Alex Jones.
Right.
Get our podcast.
Where do you get it?
Okay, any phone you got, whether it's an Android, an Apple, or, you know, whatever. I don't know if there's still any Windows mobile phones or Blackberries, but you can get these apps. They're podcasting apps. And there's all kinds of them. Apple has one. Google has it. Everybody's got one. And they all have a search feature, and you type in 3D Politics Live, and voila! Here we are. You can either get our audio podcast, or we have a low-res video podcast where you get to even look at us.
Nice.
So Ethan Gunther, he's another one of our
there we go. Another
listeners.
Nice.
You know, he says, hey, you're going to have your podcast up. I won't get to listen to you live, but I'll be able to pull up the podcast. You know.
Excellent.
So these are all important. It's important that we have all these various ways of reaching out. And, we throw our videos also on YouTube. But we've had problems with YouTube already. They didn't like some of our stuff. I also have some backup servers. I won't even talk about who they are, but we are ready.
Well, it's super secret.
After us, we're ready. Okay.
I've been drugged and they've been background tested. So
I did want to thank everybody who is sharing our podcast or our podcasts, our feed, our Facebook, episodes that we come out with.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, because we can't do it without you.
Yeah.
So.
Very good, gentlemen. And again, thanks to the viewers and commenters. We're going to try to work in your comments better next week. Don't forget, me and Van tomorrow on Sooner Politics Live. We're going to do election results. Thank you, Oldham. Tommy McKay, we're out of here for now, and we'll talk to you next time on 3D Politics Live right here on Facebook.